Honor Magic 8 Pro will fight in this camera comparison against the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. So you can see the camera specs on screen. Which one is the one that you prefer here? On paper, the Oppo should have an edge here with a 1-inch type sensor and 2 periscope telezooms. When it comes to the front-facing cameras, however, I think they're pretty close. Front-facing camera on both here, internal mics. Not sure which one I use here. Maybe the Magic 8 Pro because it has better noise reduction. 0.8 times magnification on both here. Which one has a wider field of view? I think maybe on screen the Oppo. Let's go 1x here and 1x there. Still a bit wider on the Oppo. We can go even 2x on the Oppo. Oppo features autofocus, and the Honor also features autofocus. So both of them have PDAF autofocus, which is quite nice. What do you think about both of them here at 1x? Which one is performing better? Let's go to ultra wide angle. We have the slight animation there on the Oppo, which the Honor is still missing. Which one is performing better here for the front-facing camera? It's a bit of a shitty day here. Nevertheless, I am recording now with the main camera sensors on both of them. 4K 30 frames per second. You can go up to 4K 120 frames per second, I think, on both. And yeah, this is the main camera sensor, a lot larger on the Oppo, 1-inch versus 1.28-inch size sensor on the Honor. So the Honor is a little bit behind there. Has a larger aperture, I think, with f1.6. Don't remember the aperture, but I think it's a bit more close down on the Oppo. What do you think about both of them here? During recording, I have the ability to switch, like on the Honor here, to 0.6 times, I think it is, and the Oppo here. Which one is wider? I think it should be the Honor that is a lot wider with 12 millimeters here. These on paper, if you add a bit of stabilization, maybe it's 14. What do you think about them? Which one is performing better here with the ultra wide angle? If my hand hopefully is not inside of the shot. And yeah, let's see how a zoom test performs here on both of them, because we have two zoom one periscope and one zoom lens here, actually two periscope lenses on the Oppo and only one on the Honor. So we start off the zoom test with the ultra wide angles. We just go directly to 2x. Lens switching almost not visible on both. Then 3.7x and 3x here. They're both switched lenses. Which one looks better in your opinion? Let's go to 6x here, which is a dedicated button. On the Honor I have to use the zoom button, so ready to go to 15 times. And here I can go also 15, actually this is 15 times now. So which one looks better? Which one is more detailed? I can go even further here, up to 30 times on the Oppo, but the Honor is capping out. Let's go back to the 15 times and then switch down back to the 1x lens. So which one is more smooth? I think both in terms of smoothness very close. We start off with the tele sensors, the primary one on the Find X8 Ultra and the sole one on the Magic 8 Pro. In terms of colors, you see much more vibrant colors throughout all the pictures here. The Honor Magic 8 Pro's default profile is more vibrant than the Find X8 Ultra's more realistic kind of mode here. Also, the Honor is lifting up shadows a little bit more. This is why the pictures are appearing a little bit more brighter. When it comes to the detail levels, I think the Honor is doing a slightly bit better job in this picture here, where it's slightly out of focus there looking. But when I look around there, it's not the focusing, it's not the HDR. Honor is doing a slightly bit better job where here we have overblown light bulbs. It is just sharpening that the Honor has added to this whole picture throughout the whole picture that is giving the impression of a sharper picture. But actually in terms of detail levels, there's not much to it. Both are very similar when it comes to this in terms of details. But I prefer the Honor here because it's just a tad more crisper, where it seems to be out of focus all over the place on the Oppo. When we take a look at the ultra wide angle, color-wise, we don't see much of a difference. Here I would even say the Oppo is a bit more colorful and more punchy in the terms of the greens. than the Magic 8 Pro, but the Magic 8 Pro has a wider field of view with 12mm, and I think this matters. Not only that, I think the Find X8 Ultra is very soft again, where the Honor Magic 8 Pro is sharpening, maybe a tiny bit over sharpening, but it seems to be a bit crisper. And this makes it a little bit better, especially when you go towards the edges, where usually they have like the weakest spots, the ultra wide angles, where they get very soft. And as it's very soft already on the Oppo, it is getting even softer towards the edges, which doesn't look very nice. And especially when you go towards this here, I want to capture some details there. An ultra wide angle is a win for the Magic 8 Pro. Wider field of view, a little bit more sharpening, a tad better there. On the Magic 8 Pro. When you come to this here, which is 85mm, which is a crop of the 70mm, so press the 3x button again and you land at 85, which is the optical zoom of the Magic 8 Pro. But the Oppo Find X8 Ultra has an ace up its sleeve. It can record this or capture the picture in high quality mode, which is, should be 25, but it's for some reason getting me 30 megapixel shots, as you see here. So I have to zoom out a little bit. Color-wise, the Oppo is doing a better job. This is the correct green, where this is a little bit too bluish green. It's too darkish kind of the green. Again, in terms of sharpening, the Oppo is a little bit softer, where the Honor is sharpening things up a little bit more. But in terms of detail levels, you don't see much of a difference. You only see like the foliage and over sharpening on the Honor here, where I think it's a bit more realistic on the Oppo. Quite interesting is the 10x shot here, because taken at the same time, you can see that the Oppo is capturing this shot a little bit faster. The car was like in front of the Caritas car here. This guy was like in front of this. And on the Honor, it's just like, even if it was the same time, it's already passed and covering another car there, which is quite interesting. So yeah, in terms of detail levels, both again doing the same shenanigans. They try to optimize texts, of course. You see some artifacts there all over the place. In this case, it seems to be a little bit smudgier on the Honor. Like we had this smudginess or like a little bit of mist on the Oppo before. But in terms of detail levels, not much of a difference between those two. There's just one thing that where I noticed maybe the processing is slightly a bit better on the Oppo, which is like this here on the car should be a grill, and you can see there's an indication that it's more likely a grill, where here the Honor's aggressive kind of I want to get noise out, I want to smooth everything out, makes it look like a plane completely. Otherwise, I think this is also interesting. Could be one car. Anyway, otherwise very similar, a bit darker of the exposure of the Find X8 Ultra, where this is one lifting up stuff, very comparable with each other. What the Find X8 Ultra has, of course, a benefit at 6x, the optical zoom, with the Magic 8 Pro, even if it's cropping in. If you don't crop into 10x, you crop in something in between. The Honor Magic 8 Pro is falling a bit on its head. We are definitely much better on the Oppo, where the Honor is just not looking so great. I think they have to do a software update to also in between all the zoom levels to optimize this a little bit more, which is an issue definitely still with the Honor. Selfies, very comparable, again a bit more contrasty now on the Find X8 Ultra, but when you zoom in, you can see how much more details. First of all, again, it is like 37 megapixels there on the Oppo, where it's just like 12 megapixels, 14 megapixels here, or roughly 12 megapixels on the Honor, but much smoother, less details on the Honor, much more details there on the Oppo. I like the Oppo a bit more. Cutouts are hit or miss on both. I think they are roughly the same when it comes to this here. It's a matter of taste, which one you like better there. This looks a bit out of focus there. This one is also slightly bit out of focus, but I like it a little bit better on the Oppo. This shot shows also, again, the significance of optical zoom. 70mm on the Find X8 Ultra, first exposure much better. It's like on the Magic 8 Pro, it's not so great. Honor also doesn't do the Xiaomi trick in using the telezoom for the middle part cutout thing, because it's just a crop of the main sensor, and yeah, it's looking much better again on the Find X8 Ultra when it comes to those 70mm shots. So you really have to rely of the 85 and then the 10x 230mm on the Honor to get good results for now. Ultra wide angle again more punchy colors on the Find X8 Ultra, wider on the Magic 8 Pro. Honor has to fix some issue because for some reason it is blurry here. It's hard to get a blurry shot on an ultra wide angle, but I managed to do it. So this I wanted to show you as well. HDR with the main camera sensor. I think Honor is doing a great job. It's lifting up the shadows like usual, keeping the picture a bit warmer like usual, where the Find X8 Ultra is more accurate here. But it's also maintaining the highlights a bit better, where we have a bit misty highlights. It's not completely overexposing everything, and I think the detail levels are still there, but I think that some people might prefer what the Honor is doing here in this extreme situation, where this tree here is still visible but hardly, and here you can see a little bit more of this one. So yeah, it is what it is, as you see here. Otherwise, I would say the main camera sensors are almost on par, and this is a compliment for the Honor because Honor is using a much smaller sensor size here. And then telemacro. Yes, on paper the Magic 8 Pro should have telemacro, even though super macro mode doesn't offer the 3.7x by the time I was doing this shot here. And the Find X8 Ultra is able to do this. It's a bad shot, I know. I didn't find anything else. There are no flowers anymore blooming. Anyway, it seems to be a little bit less sharp here for some reason. 1/50th of a second, 1/50th of a second, ISO at 640 on the Oppo. The Honor seems to be a bit sharper. Both are very capable as it seems, and I would give them the benefit of the doubt that they're pretty good and equal when it comes to this. But yeah, you be the judge here on both of them. And then the more extreme zoom shots. Here I think the colors are again more accurate on the Find X8 Ultra, where the Honor Magic 8 Pro is lifting up the shadows and everything a little bit more up. But here in the extreme zooms, zoom levels, you can see that the Honor Magic 8 Pro preserves a little bit more of details. That is like the 200 megapixel sensor helping. Sharpening applied, helping as well in getting out a little bit more details for sure. But I think it is in general a little bit more detailed as well. Look at this here, because this is not only sharpening that is applied here. This is more details that we have here on the Honor. So yes, at the extreme zoom levels, the Honor is providing you with a little bit more details, which is quite interesting for those people who like to zoom in a little bit more. And yes, AI is kicking in, but AI is being used on both here. Portrait shots have 2x zoom on both 47mm versus 46mm, almost looking identical. But you can clearly see already there, we have a bit of more background blur on the FX8 Ultra, where we have f4 here. I don't know what it's using on the Magic 8 Pro. It doesn't state. It says f2.8 here, but it's definitely not 2.8. What the virtual aperture is here. We have a bit of more contrasty, harsher contrasty kind of look there on my face. A little bit better colors here on the Find X8 Ultra because it doesn't have this harsh contrasty look. In terms of sharpness and detail level, I think it is over sharpening definitely on the Honor, but it is not so much doing that. It's much more natural looking on the Oppo. In my opinion, the Oppo is winning against the Magic 8 Pro because it's just too sharp here. I can always sharpen up the Oppo, but I cannot de-sharpen or soften the Honor. When we go to the 3x on the Find X8 Ultra, which is 70mm and 85mm on the Magic 8 Pro, we can clearly see in terms of colors, they're very, very similar. Not much of a difference there in this case. But again, a bit more contrasty look definitely on the Magic 8 Pro. Again, a bit more over sharpened look. Look at the eyebrows, how unnatural they are looking like. The eyes are also redrawn. And yes, I think it's more natural looking on the Oppo. Cutouts, both are doing a fine job there. Nothing that I can complain about. And then we can get even closer, 135mm on both. I had a slightly different angle because the zoom camera, telezoom camera is on a different position on the Find X8 Ultra. Even if you don't move the tripod, you get a bit of a different position there. But in terms of detail level, again, Much more artificial, sharpened, over-processed, overcooked looking, and a bit more maybe even overexposed looking there. It doesn't really look nice on the Honor in comparison to the Oppo, where the Oppo looks a little bit, yeah, soft, but definitely something more usable in terms of portraits there. So portrait-wise, definitely the Find X8 Ultra is winning against the Magic 8 Pro, even though the Magic 8 Pro can zoom in a little bit further here. It's not getting better, it's even getting worse in terms of AI processing there in the portraits. Super night video now on the Honor Magic 8 Pro. Yes, it has a dedicated super night video, 4K 24 frames per second. This is why you see a little bit of a different frame rate. I'm walking towards the light. What do you think about the audio quality here using the internal mics, standing under the light? How well is the lens flare handling? And now I'm walking away from the light with the light in the background. How well is it doing? And walking towards the dark here. How about stabilization? How good is it? How about the colors? And now turning towards the light. What do you think about the night performance here of the Magic 8 Pro? Night video now on the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, 4K 30 frames per second, auto FPS, maybe it's going down to 24 frames per second. We have a 1-inch type sensor that is benefiting this one here. Really walking towards the light, standing now on the light. What do you think about this one here? Walking away from the light now with the light in the background. How well is it handling the lens flare effects? There's a car parking here, so going into the dark now. And now turning towards the light. What do you think about this one here? How good is this performing? Internal mics. Nighttime photos show the potential of the sensor. A little bit less of processing power. It's more about the raw power of the sensors and of the lenses, what they're capable of. We start off with the ultra wide angle. We can see the wider field of view, but we immediately also see light bulbs overexposed on the Find X8 Ultra, where it is kept nicely on the Magic 8 Pro. We can also see the processing differences. So the Magic 8 Pro is really over sharpening. You can clearly see it on the tree there. But do you prefer this over sharpened kind of look to the very soft look that we have on the Oppo? I think I do. I have to choose between those two. It's just a tad too less processed looking on the Oppo. It's just too soft looking. And as we have the ultra wide angle field of view on the Magic, I think the Magic is taking this one. Because it's getting softer more towards the edges, where here it's already soft on the Oppo. When we take a look at the main camera sensors, huge difference in what they capture here. It's almost daylight on the Magic 8 Pro. I didn't switch to the extra night mode, it did its own night mode thing. And the Find X8 Ultra did 2 seconds exposure, and the Magic 8 Pro, I think 3 seconds exposure. It's a matter of preference, I would say. Here again, lifting up the shadows so much that the balcony and everything else is going out is looking a bit artificial on the Honor for sure. But in terms of detail levels, I'm surprised how good the smaller sensor of the Honor is keeping up with the larger sensor of the Oppo. You can see even here the overexposure, where here the HDR is kicking in, and I can almost count every LED here on this light strip. Then the shades. The details are there. It's a bit sharpened, maybe even over sharpened on the Oppo, where the Honor keeps it a bit softer. But the detail levels on both are clearly there. So equal points for the main cameras. Quite a surprise, but yes, even the smaller sensor of the Magic 8 Pro performs in terms of detail levels, in terms of HDR maybe as well, a bit better somehow. But in general, look at the light source there, on par. Telezoom, very interesting, because again, the Honor Magic 8 Pro is lifting up a little bit too much shadows, creating a bit of more artificial nighttime by lifting up too much and making everything a bit brighter looking. The Find X8 Ultra is keeping it more real in this case. In terms of detail level, even though we have a tinier sensor, 1 over 1.5 versus 1 over 1.4, I think they're very comparable with each other here, I have to say. It's a bit noisier on the Oppo. That's the only big difference that you can see here. But in terms of detail levels, almost identical. There's just here the teddy ring is missing. But this is not necessarily that there's less detail. It's just like 70mm versus 85. So if I would go to 85, maybe it would be there as well. A slightly bit better HDR. Here, there, but almost on par. When you zoom in at 10x, I would even say the Find X8 Ultra is doing a better job. Again, with the exposure especially. Now the Edeka logo looks much nicer on the Oppo than on the Honor, in my opinion. But the Bush logo, better exposed. Again, HDR kind of on the Honor. And the same goes for the EasyFit. You can read it, they cannot read it. Might be that there's some AI shenanigans going on. But here you can see the ring is there. Well, both struggle a bit there with this one. Very, very comparable with each other. Wow. It's like, yeah, equal points here. I cannot really distinguish and tell one is so superior than the other there in this case. Selfies. Let's take a look at the front-facing camera. Both doing a fine job. More cropped in on the Magic 8 Pro because of 25mm for some reason. More megapixels here. I think the Honor is overdoing it with its sharpness and sharpening and recreating of eyebrows. It's almost looking like an alien, where here it's a bit more softer and more natural looking on the Oppo. I prefer the Oppo in this case due to less over sharpened kind of look. Now let's go back to the zoom lens and to the duel of AIs, because if you go to 344 or 340mm, you can clearly see there is where the Magic 8 Pro struggles. And the benefit of the 6x optical zoom extra sensor on the Find X8 Ultra really shows, even though you can see it's really using it, f3.1, it's really using it, even though yeah, some might say in the last couple of examples, maybe the Honor had a little bit of a upper hand here. I think in this case, the Oppo still has a bit of an upper hand there over the Honor. You can clearly read Immobilien, Finanzierung, Versicherung. Here you cannot. It's overexposed. Yeah, you can see that there's a QR code, but in general, I think also here the license plate, the Oppo is doing a better job there with the telezoom at night and this zoom levels there. And then ranking and conclusion, TLDR, the Honor Magic 8 Pro gets 4.62 points, where the Oppo Find X8 Ultra gets 4.692 points. So we have a clear winner, which is the Find X8 Ultra. The Ultra is winning naturally against the Pro, but it's much closer in certain aspects than you think. For example, the main camera photo quality on the FX8 Ultra is the same as on the Magic 8 Pro. Yes, it is a different sensor, it has 1 inch, has some advantages here and there, but the effective outcome in 99% of the time, the Magic 8 Pro performs the same as the X8 Ultra, which is quite interesting and impressive for the smaller kind of sensor. The Honor Magic 8 Pro has a wider field of view on the ultra-wide angle camera, and also the sharpness and detail levels are just beyond what the Find X8 Ultra is capable of doing there. Narrower field of view, much softer look here, especially in daylight, but also at nighttime it becomes very evident. And zoom portrait photo quality, however, is a win for the Find X8 Ultra, especially with portrait. They're looking much more natural, even though it doesn't have this sharpened, over-sharpened look on the Magic 8 Pro. The detail levels are there and it looks fantastic in comparison to the Magic 8 Pro. Also the zoom shots, I think they're very close, but the Find X8 Ultra, especially also at nighttime, shows its strengths there, where it's like beating the Magic 8 Pro for sure. Video recording quality is another thing where the FX8 Ultra is much better, where the Honor Magic 8 Pro struggles a bit. Sometimes even I think a little bit of stuttery when you move it with the main camera sensor there, which is an issue they should still fix. The colors are a bit weird. It's a bit over sharpened, at the same time yellow face color, and at the same time too much contrast added, which is a bit of like a bummer on the Magic 8 Pro, where the Find X8 Ultra is almost nearly going to perfection there with its colors especially, but also the rest, stabilization, very natural looking and so on. Autofocus performance is identical there. I didn't notice much of a difference between those two. Front-facing camera is better on the Find X8 Ultra. Becomes apparent also at nighttime. It's just over-processed looking on the Magic 8 Pro, sometimes even too smeary and soft looking on the Magic 8 Pro, which is also weird, especially when you count in the AI and the algorithms that try to make your face look more beautiful even though you have them turned off. Camera AI wise, however, the Find X8 Ultra is like frozen in time from, I think, the Oppo Find X6 days still. So yes, they have a new Pro video mode, but one-handed usage is a bit cumbersome there. You have to use two hands there. Extra features, however, I think the Find X8 Ultra offers a little bit more in terms of extra features that the Magic 8 Pro doesn't have, which is a bit of a shame. Magic 8 Pro, for example, has ditched its movie mode. Yes, the Find X8 Ultra doesn't have this movie mode anymore, but it has a fantastic Pro video mode that has some nice features here as well. That is definitely something to look about it. But we have also like the star shots and the stage modes on both available, which is quite nice, and lots of other features there. Where does it end up in the ranking now is here. You can see the Find X8 Ultra is still ranked number 3 here, where the Honor Magic 8 Pro is ranked number 5. So it is slightly better than the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, but only slightly. And the main differentiator between those two is the front-facing camera being better on the Honor Magic 8 Pro. Otherwise, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra might be the better choice. No, the ultra-wide angle is also better on the 8 Pro. But zoom and portrait photo quality is something there. I wish I had the 15 Ultra to test the portraits again, because I think in terms of zoom, they are very neck to neck, which is quite interesting there. It is a bit worse than the Find X100 Ultra, but you see the points. It's so close together that I would say it is on the same level, the Honor Magic 8 Pro, as the Ultras from last year / this year. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra came out last year. Is it a last year device? From last year, basically. So there's a huge step for Honor. If you take a look into account, the Magic 6 RSR was the highest ranked here, even better than the 7 Pro. That was a downgrade to the 6 RSR for sure. I didn't test the 7 RSR. Maybe the 7 RSR would be somewhere here. But yes, it's a huge step forward for Honor in terms of photography and processing. I think they made a good job here. It is competing against the Ultras, which is quite good and very nice that Honor can take this off. If you have some questions, comments, put them in the comment section. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye.